On the day of the ceremony, my fiancé simply didn't show up. Instead, his brother showed up, saying he would marry me on his behalf. In front of all the guests, I called Henry more than 30 times until someone finally answered. The voice. On the other end was Claire, his childhood friend. She spoke with irritating laziness, as if it were no big deal. "Do you want me to wake him up? It's just a wedding." Before she could finish speaking, a notification arrived. It was a photo of Henry, completely drunk, lying with his head on her pale thighs. I took a deep breath. I just said, "Don't worry, the wedding is off." That was enough for Rayan, the brother who had taken Henry's place, to start to panic. He was wearing his brother's ill-fitting suit, the sleeves flapping as he ran up to me, trying to convince me to go through with it. "Sister-in-law, don't rush into this. The certificate hasn't even been issued yet. Saying you married just anyone is the same thing, isn't it?" I laughed with a lump in my throat. The guests crowded under the stage, their expressions ranging from mockery to feigned astonishment. But I knew none of them really cared. The spotlight hit me directly, making me dizzy. I grabbed the microphone and forced a smile that burned inside. "The wedding has been canceled. Sorry for wasting your time." People began to leave, one by one. That's when Lisa, Henry's stepmother, jumped on stage screaming, beside herself. "Anna, who gave you permission to cancel this? Do you have any idea how you're embarrassing the family?" I looked at Henry's father, Edward, sitting among the guests, his face darkening with anger. I replied without hesitation. "So you mean I should marry an imposter?" I saw a moment of discomfort on Lisa's face, who glanced quickly at Edward, before muttering, "It's just a formality. As long as Henry's name is on the certificate, everything is fine." This family never really saw me. To them, I was always just a woman clinging to status. If that was all it was, then I threw the bouquet into Rayan's hands and said, "You swear then, dead or alive, whatever, it's just a formality, right?" I pushed the heavy skirt of my dress aside and stepped off the stage, leaving Lisa behind, screaming like a condemned woman. I hadn't even finished removing my makeup when Henry appeared, staggering and reeking of alcohol, without saying a word. He slapped me across the face. "I heard you canceled the wedding in front of everyone and embarrassed my father. Anna, be a little more sensible." I grabbed my phone and looked him in the eye. "I didn't want to wake you, so I took the initiative." I showed him the photo. As soon as he saw it, he turned pale. "You're getting it all wrong again. I already told you Claire and I aren't together," he added. Again, himself, because it wasn't the first time. Claire was the only girl among Henry's childhood friends, but she acted like she was just one of the guys. They leaned on each other, drank from the same bottle, ate with the same cutlery. She even wore baggy men's t-shirts and called them sibling clothes. I couldn't stand it anymore. One day I asked him nicely to stay away from her. He exploded. "Claire is just a friend. Stop thinking nonsense. And even if I did have something with her, what does that have to do with you?" After that, I gave up bringing it up. But I never imagined that on our wedding day he would leave me for her. When I didn't answer, he changed his tone. "Honey, yesterday they threw me a bachelor party. I don't even know how, but I ended up drinking too much. That's why I was late." Henry always had a reputation for drinking a lot, but it was impossible for anyone to knock him out so easily. I was so stunned that I barely reacted when he hugged me and rested his chin on my shoulder. "I'll make it up to you. Please forgive me just this once." I was about to respond, but his cell phone rang. He looked at it and smiled discreetly. When he noticed I was watching, he gave me his usual charming smile. "They want to take you out to lunch, to apologize." Of course, they were his childhood friends. As soon as I arrived, I heard forced sneezes. Claire moved away from me as if I had a disease. "I'm sorry, Anna. You know I'm allergic to cat hair. It's nothing personal." They never said anything directly, but every gesture, every word was A slap in the face. Ever since Henry met me, I had opened a pet store, and ever since then, Claire had used this allergy as an excuse to keep me from getting close to the group. But Henry, who loved animals, was always covered in cat hair when he came back from there, and yet Claire never had any reaction. When she started pretending to feel sick, Rayan rushed to her aid with asthma medicine. Everyone around her, grown men, surrounded her as if she were a rare piece of porcelain, patting her on the back, holding her chest. She recovered in their arms as if it were a scene from a soap opera. I looked at that and couldn't hold back a contemptuous smile. They really did have a deep bond. Henry was the first to get angry. "Anna, Claire has a serious allergy, and she still came to apologize to you. Do you have to be so sarcastic?" Claire gasped. "Yes, Anna. I really didn't mean to offend you. Don't take it the wrong way." Soon after, she threw herself into Henry's arms. She gave me a sidelong glance and walked away, as if she had been hurt. "We're like brother and sister. Please don't misunderstand." They were clearly painting me as a bitter, jealous woman. As a woman, I could see right through her game, but the men around me seemed blind. Henry frowned and hugged her as if she were made of glass. "When did you become so sensitive and insecure? It doesn't suit you." Claire's defiant gaze only confirmed everything I already knew. Shortly after, she approached me with a glass in her hand. She was wearing a thick mask. "Anna, regardless of what happened, it was our fault for delaying the wedding. You are so generous. Let's toast?" Everyone called me sister-in-law. Only Claire insisted on using my name. I replied coldly. "I accept your apology, but I can't drink." One of the friends, Kevin, banged his glass on the table. "Sister-in-law, you're killing us." I looked at Henry. "You know, I'm on my period," Henry always remembered. He never forgot to buy pads and put a hot water bottle on my stomach. Seeing him embarrassed, Claire tried to lighten the mood. "Oh, that's true. They're so fragile." Everyone laughed loudly. They started joking around, pushing each other, having fun. I stared at her neatly styled hair, her soft eyeliner, the subtle perfume that surrounded her. And then I said lightly, "I understand your excuses. I'm feeling bad. I'm leaving." Henry came after me and held me tight. He said that everyone had already humiliated themselves enough, as if that were enough. I replied calmly, with exhaustion written all over my face. I really wasn't well. It was then, as he looked into my eyes, that he seemed to remember how I get during my period, how the pain paralyzes me to the point that I have to close the store for days. I saw a shadow of guilt pass over his face. He muttered that he would take me home, but Claire's voice rang out from the living room, calling him to have a drink. The exchange was confusing. He told me to go ahead, and that he would join me later to watch the show. He ran inside, and I left, hugging my stomach, as if that could contain all the pain inside me. This time, it didn't matter who he chose. In the days that followed, I remained. Cold, I organized my documents, bought my ticket, and waited for the right moment to leave. But Henry started acting strangely. He, who hardly ever stayed home, started coming to the store every day to help me after work. One night, he even made dinner. He watched me eat in silence, and after clearing the dishes, asked if I wanted to watch a show with him. I said I had already seen it. He seemed to wilt. He muttered that it didn't matter, that there would always be another one. Still so bossy, but now trying to be nice. He sat down next to me on the couch and pulled me closer, acting natural. I looked at his profile and blurted out, "Let's break up." The remote fell to the floor with a loud thud. His face suddenly darkened. "Is it just because I didn't watch the show with you?" I ran my hand over my forehead, exhausted. We were never on the same page. Claire is more compatible with him. He grabbed the ashtray and threw it hard against the TV, destroying the screen in a flash of static. "Anna, stop it. I already told. You were just siblings." He had barely finished his sentence when his cell phone rang. He looked at me, then at the screen, and then pressed the button to reject the call. "I'm not going to meet my childhood friends. Is that okay?" He said that, and went straight to the guest room, slamming the door behind him. This piqued my curiosity. I wanted to see how long it would last. He really did stop going to his meetings and started coming home early every day. But he was still, cold, waiting for me to make the first move, as always. Only this time I didn't give in. I noticed that he was coming home with small bruises on his body. One day, I asked if he wanted me to take care of him. Instead of looking happy, he panicked. "It's nothing. I'll go to the hospital by myself." But the injuries didn't justify that. When he came back, he had children's bandages on his arms and visible needle marks on his veins. I questioned him and he made up some excuse. I only understood everything when I went for a checkup before the trip and a nurse stuck the needle in so many times she couldn't find my vein. When I looked up, my whole body froze. It was Claire. Before I could say anything, Henry appeared, as if he had been lurking nearby. He said she had started a new job, that she was inexperienced, and asked me not to blame her. His protectiveness made me laugh inside. A 28-year-old woman being treated like a little girl. I pressed the cotton ball against my arm indifferently. "Henry, I don't care if you want to use her as a guinea pig. Just don't involve me in it." It was already clear that the marks were Claire's doing. I saw other angry patients looking at her with the same discomfort. She hid behind Henry, looking offended and defiant. He pulled me aside and asked me to stop exaggerating. He said that Claire rarely accepted a job and that we should respect that. I agreed without emotion. His words simply stopped. I turned to leave when I heard his voice ask if something was wrong with me. I replied that I was just getting a checkup, requesting authorization to travel. I repeated several times that it was just a tourist trip. I wasn't hiding anything. I just wanted to avoid more stress, but Henry was suspicious. He didn't believe me. He dragged me outside, saying we were going to get the certificate, the same one that, according to him, was worthless. When I tried to break free, he said he was afraid I would escape. He held me tightly and started making frantic phone calls. "The dress has to be tailor-made. Yes, the brand Anna likes. As soon as possible, I'll pick out the diamond ring right now." His voice was urgent, but it didn't move me. On the contrary, it only made me sadder. I was the one who organized that wedding that never happened. He didn't care about the details. For him, it was all a burden. While I was arranging invitations, flowers, and the venue, he was enjoying life with his childhood friends. When he hung up the phone, he tried to justify himself again. He said it was Claire's first job, that her uncle had insisted, and that he couldn't say no. "I treat her like a sister, just not like a brother." That hurt me in a way he would never understand. Seeing that I didn't respond, he insisted, his face red and distressed. "I promise I'll never have anything to do with her again, okay? Just don't leave me. I swear we'll have the most beautiful wedding ever." The following month, Henry threw himself into the preparations. Seeing me post updates on social media seemed to delight him. His friends liked and commented enthusiastically. Everyone except Claire. She vanished, as if she had disappeared off the face of the earth. With a week to go before the wedding, a new motorcycle appeared in the parking lot. Henry rushed over to explain, laughing, "It's a birthday present for Rayan. And, well, I took advantage and bought one for myself too. I've been invited on a trip through western Sichuan." He loved that kind of adventure. The adrenaline rush of riding big motorcycles had always been what drove him. When we met, he even sold all of his bikes because he was worried about me. But now, on the eve of our wedding, he wanted to embark on another one of his wild escapades. Suddenly, Henry raised his finger to the sky and declared firmly that this motorcycle trip was just for men. I had no reason or desire to argue. Almost every time he stopped at a gas station, he made a video call. He pounded his chest and promised he was prepared. I brought SIM cards from all 3 carriers, plus a portable router. That way you can follow me whenever you want." The confidence on his face almost made me smile. I just hoped he would take care of himself. On the 3rd night, the call came later than usual. In the background, I could see a leg of lamb roasting over a fire. This time, he not only talked to me, but also made sure that each of his friends greeted me. Rayon smiled broadly and called me sister-in-law. Kevin, on the other hand, seemed restless, constantly looking away to his left. Amidst the strong wind, a familiar voice cut through the night. "Who will drink the blessed cup?" And before the sentence was finished, the screen went black. Half an hour later, I received a flood of messages. Henry asked if I was already asleep, apologized for the poor connection, and said that the internet in the mountains was bad. The messages kept coming, slowly, sporadically, as if he were trying hard to make it seem like everything was normal. And that's when I felt a strange peace inside me, as if the blade hanging over my head had finally fallen. The next morning, I found a silent video in the chat. I already knew what it was, but I opened it anyway. There was Claire, naked, lying, on top of Henry in the camping tent. I closed the video before it ended. Then a message from her appeared. "If I managed to stop your wedding once, I can do it again." I felt disgusted. I blocked her right away. Then I sent Henry a message. "See you at the Rongan airport." I packed my bags and went straight there. I chose that airport on purpose, with a connection, because I knew that going back to the capital would mean dealing with everything all over again, and leaving from there would be more difficult. When I arrived, I recognized Henry immediately in the crowd. He came toward me, listening to what I was saying. I don't know how. But Claire was there too, standing in a corner with her arms crossed and a provocative smile on her lips. In the middle of that crowd, I slapped Henry across the face. Everything seemed to freeze for a second. The man who was always so proud stood frozen, then turned, his face away from me, and said, "If it makes you feel better, you can hit me as many times as you want." I snorted with contempt. He looked filthy to me. Claire rushed in front of him, putting herself up as a shield. "If you want to hit, someone hit me, not him." Henry pushed her hard. "Get out of here. This is between me and my wife. Don't get involved." She fell to the floor, shocked, as if she couldn't believe it. I'd seen enough. I told Henry I was only there to end it all. He panicked and tried to hold me back. I pushed him away coldly. I never planned on going to this wedding. His hand stopped in midair. "What?" "I know you too well. I know you can't do this." But then his body collapsed. I turned and got in line for international departure. Henry tried to follow me, but security stopped him. "She has a ticket. I'll buy mine right now." They asked for his documents. Behind me, he shouted my name, almost crying, but none of that mattered to me anymore. He came into my life suddenly, 3 years earlier. I was supposed to have gone abroad to study veterinary medicine. The day we met, it was raining heavily in the capital. It was a rare storm. People were running through the streets, and my pet shop was about to close. When I looked up, I saw that man standing outside the window, motionless in the rain. I followed his gaze and realized he was watching a cat licking her kitten. Even through the glass, I saw something in his eyes that touched me. On impulse, I opened the door and asked, "Would you like to come in and see the cats up close?" He started coming to the store, petting the animals, but the vulnerability of that rainy night disappeared. Soon he was back to being the carefree, arrogant young man from the city's elite. It was only later that I understood why. I reminded him of his mother, who had died very young. Before I got too involved, my best friend warned me. "Do you think he's a street cat? Stop playing the good girl." I was blind at the time, but now it was too late. During my stay abroad, I felt a lightness I hadn't experienced in a long time. Henry sent me dozens of messages, all unanswered. I ended up blocking him. The day I returned, he showed up at the airport. When he saw me, his smile disappeared. Next to me, a man put his luggage on the floor and extended his hand politely. "Hello, I'm Max." In the blink of an eye, Henry flew at him with a punch. "How dare you touch my woman?" I grabbed Henry by the collar, furious. "Are you crazy?" His face was red. "Is this why you left?" I pushed Henry away. "You don't even know why we broke up." "He's my cousin." Henry turned pale. "My blood cousin." I rolled my eyes and was ready to leave when the phone rang. It was Henry's father. His voice was still harsh. "Dinner at our house tonight." When I arrived at the mansion, Henry wasn't there. Edward noticed my surprise. "I only invited you today." The Yi family was traditional and well-known, and they always treated me coldly, but Henry had insisted on marrying me, even going on a hunger strike to convince his father. Even so, sitting at the table, I realized that Edward was still waiting for me to bow. When I didn't serve him first, he slammed his chopsticks on the table. "You haven't even gotten the certificate or had the ceremony, and you already think you have the right to be arrogant." In the past, because of Henry, I had silently accepted many humiliations in that house. They treated me like a servant. But now, that no longer made sense. "You invited me as a guest. There's no reason for a guest to serve the host." Edward turned pale at my response, and before the situation could escalate, Lillian stepped forward to try to calm him down. It's not worth arguing with such a small-minded person. I realized that dinner was over. There was no longer any atmosphere or purpose. I decided to be direct. I broke up with Henry. I only came today out of respect for our elders. If there's nothing else, I'm leaving. Edward's voice was low, almost a choked whisper. "Henry can't leave you. I don't know what he sees in you." He looked me up and down with disdain. "But he's my son, so I have to accept it." He added that in a few days we should go together to register the marriage. It was like hearing the most absurd joke in the world. "So you really didn't understand anything I've said so far?" He stood up angrily and stared at me. "With your looks and your history, you should be grateful that Henry paid any attention to you. Don't try to play hard to get. I've seen plenty like you, thinking that cheap tricks are enough to keep a man. But only my son is foolish enough to fall for it." I swallowed hard. I admit he beat me, but let's make one thing clear. The prenuptial agreement is still pending. The family had always been like this. The house and car were in Henry's name as assets acquired before the marriage. My parents, worried that I would be at a disadvantage, made a huge effort and paid for half the house. We also paid for the day-to-day expenses. Even so, they always treated me like a gold digger. That was the last straw. I stood up firmly. "I didn't know your hearing was so bad. Your son means nothing to me, and your family even less." I paused. "Now I see. That infidelity runs in the family." Edward fell into his chair as if he couldn't breathe. His eyes were glazed over, his face pale. The room turned chaotic, and I left with my head held high. In the past, Henry's mother fell into a depression and took her own life after discovering Edward's betrayal. I always kept quiet about it. I never used that pain as an argument. My training as a veterinarian abroad opened doors for me. Several hospitals sought me out. Max, my cousin, asked if I had made a decision yet. I joked, "It depends on who offers the best salary." He smiled, but his gaze seemed a little downcast. The next day, when I showed up for my new job, I saw surprise in his eyes. "You really came." He mentioned that they might not be able to pay me very well. I already knew the reality of that hospital, but Max was the one who introduced me to this path, and gratitude to me matters. Shortly after I started, Henry showed up with a stray cat in his arms. "Anna, look at this cat." It was a newborn kitten, covered in wounds, as if it had been attacked by other cats. I picked up the little creature gently. "Leave it with me. Wait outside." Henry seemed unsure how to respond to my curt tone. He looked uncomfortable. After I finished caring for the kitten, he paced around outside. When he saw me, he held out the cat. "Don't you think he looks like Twani?" Twani was a cat I had adopted years ago. He was in poor health and died young. I knew why Henry said that. Things that are gone, and maybe they don't even want to be replaced. He turned pale, and without warning, pushed the kitten into my arms. "You're the professional. Take care of him for now." He ran off. When I looked for him, he was already gone. With no choice, I took the cat home. Henry used the excuse of visiting him to knock on my door. I answered him through the gate. "Here you go, you can go now." He just nodded with his eyes down. "Anna, are you really that cold?" I knew that those photos of him in the hospital, because of a stomach hemorrhage after drinking too much, were posted just for me to see. He was testing my limits, manipulating my compassion. But giving in to him would be cruel to myself. What I didn't expect was to see Rayon waiting for me at the entrance to my community. "Anna, why are you still coming back here? Claire and Henry are getting along well now," I said without caring. "And how exactly does that affect me?" Rayon frowned. "Every time you show up, Henry loses his mind." I shrugged. "He comes looking for me, not the other way around." Rayon clearly didn't believe me, but his face softened. "Anna, I know I messed up with you, but could you do me a favor? Leave the capital." And, hesitantly, he added, "Claire is pregnant." I widened my eyes. "Congratulations to her. Is it your child?" He almost choked. "No, of course not. Don't say that." I smiled slightly. "That makes sense. You're siblings. No woman gets pregnant by her partner's brother." He wilted. "It's Henry's." I frowned. "Are you sure?" It didn't affect me. The new job was going well. I was happy. Turning a passion into a profession was something that fulfilled me. One day, while organizing some papers, I heard a shrill voice. "Dr. Anna, can you come in?" It was a woman, trying to sound kind, but it came across as forced. Without thinking, I asked if she had already been screened. "It's a pregnancy test." I picked up the form. The signature was there. Claire. I looked up and saw her smiling, victorious. She had changed her look. Long hair, a ladylike air. I put my hand to my temple. "Sorry, I don't deal with that kind of creature." "What?" She tried to feign surprise. "Are you calling me an animal?" Edward's voice sounded. Behind me, the room filled up in an instant. People were peeking through the door, whispering. I closed the door and sighed deeply. "Did you really have to bring this up here?" Claire immediately ran to Edward, making a scene. "Godfather, I'm pregnant with Henry's baby, and Anna said I'm worse than an animal." I couldn't say anything. She wasn't educated, but she knew how to manipulate. Edward caught on right away. His eyes lit up. "You're pregnant with Henry's baby?" He rubbed his hands together with joy. But when he looked at me, his face closed up. "I was going to give you another chance, but now I see it's not worth it." I was about to leave when I bumped into Henry, who had gone there to accompany the kitten we call Tuani for his exam. Our eyes met at the same time, and for a moment, the air seemed heavy. I was the first to break the silence. "Congratulations, Henry. You're going to be a father." But instead of smiling, he turned pale. "What did you say?" His expression hardened. His gaze pierced Claire like a sharp knife. She had never seen him like this before. She tried to hide her trembling with a forced laugh. "You're so happy you've gone crazy, right? I'm pregnant." But Henry's face darkened, like a stormy sky. "Are you sure this child is mine?" Clier blushed, hesitant. "If it's not yours, whose will it be?" He snorted coldly. "Then wait until it's born. We'll get it tested." She was in shock, her eyes watering. "How can you say that?" Edward, unable to take it anymore, kicked Henry in the knee. "You jerk, is that how you talk to her? Where are your manners?" But Henry remained silent, looking away and staring at me. I could read the plea on his lips. "Forgive me." That was between us. Henry had always had a health problem, oligospermia. His chances of having a child were minimal. Not even his parents knew about it. For years, I took that pain as my own. When we received the diagnosis, he was in shock. I just hugged him and told him we could take care of animals and have a beautiful life. But now, Clier was saying she was pregnant with his child. During that trip to Western Sichuan, she sent me an explicit video hinting at what had happened. But I knew. That day, it hadn't been possible. So she probably tried again. With another plan, Henry exploded in the clinic courtyard. He didn't care who was around. He grabbed Clier by the hair and forced her to tell the truth. At first, she denied everything, as always. But he wasn't stupid. He had already had her investigated. Since the day we were going to get married, she had been drugging Henry, time and time again. That's how she got what she wanted. In the end, she confessed that the child was Rayan's. Henry, as much as he resisted, couldn't function under the effects. Her plan was simple. Use Rayan as a substitute. He had always had a crush on her and made no secret of it. He was both a husband and a father figure. He even asked me to leave town. It would have been a touching story if it weren't so one-sided. What no one knew was that while all this was happening, debt collectors were knocking on Clier's door. Her father, unbeknownst to her, had already lost almost everything trying to support her. She saw her pregnancy as a chance for a good marriage. With the loss of the child during the confusion, everything fell apart. Edward now rejected her as, well, he would rather have no grandchildren than raise someone else's child. His years of friendship with Clier's father were reduced to dust. The man was beaten almost to death by creditors, and all of this could have been avoided. When Henry told me, he let out a bitter laugh. "You never imagined this would happen, did you? I guess it's the price for everything." His gaze was empty. "If I told you I truly regret it, would you give me another chance?" I stared at him, calm. "What do you think?" He insisted. "It was Clier who drugged me. I lost our marriage because of her. I always thought she was harmless, someone who grew up with me. I never saw her in a different light." "I believe you," I replied without hesitation. "But our separation isn't because of her. She represents something new to you. Impulsive. That excitement of a new beginning. I am what was already built. Solid. I gave you too many chances. Once, maybe it was a trap. Twice maybe, but 3, 4 times. You knew, Henry. You knew, and you still continued." I let go of his hand. We were 2 parallel lines that crossed by chance on that rainy night. But now it's time to go our separate ways. Henry never tried to find me again. I heard from mutual friends that he started drinking heavily. He got involved in illegal street racing. In one of the races, he was in a serious accident. The car was totaled, and he survived by a miracle. But he couldn't walk. Edward showed up once. He was unrecognizable. He had aged more than a decade. "Anna, can you see Henry? He doesn't want to live anymore." He was carrying gifts in his hands, as if that could fix everything. I smiled sadly. I remembered how hard I had tried to please that family, and how they despised me. Now all I felt was pity. "Uncle Edward, it's not that I don't want to, but he's your son, and you know him better than I do. I'm sure he wouldn't want me to see him like this. He's too proud." Edward looked away, and his once imposing posture seemed to have succumbed to the weight of guilt With Dunpling in my arms, I watched him walk away. The sun shone gently, and inside me there was only peace.